So now it's coming back. Yeah, all you need to do is produce. What's up, Ingrid? Okay, we have a, say what? Okay, we have a question here. Drew Crew Outdoor says, besides a sawmill, what's the next big purchase needed? Sander planer. Well, Drew Crew, that depends on what you want to do. I tell people all the time, make sure that if you want to buy a sawmill, make sure you need a sawmill. Because what you may need is to go to Knothead and have him mill until you can develop enough inventory for you to purchase your own mill. Take that money, put it in the shop.
Well, and you know, one of the things that I try to tell people is utilize the resources that you have at hand. And like you said, call knotheads. And that's a good point, because if you want to focus on the building side, then focus on growing your shop capabilities and what you can do, whether it be with, you know, like say a Woodmaster wide drum sander that's affordable and single phase that'll work in a smaller shop, or better finishing equipment, or better finish sanders, you know, or things like that, and utilize guys like me that have larger equipment to cut the slabs, you know,
and you know, it's yeah, because I don't. A lot of times, guys start with a mill, and that's the last thing you should start with. If you're woodworking, you want to concentrate on woodworking, because if you get a mill, you have to maintain the mill, you have to operate the mill. It's a lot. So if you're building furniture and you're making money off of building furniture, have someone else build the stuff. Steel and Grain is the perfect example. Steel and Grain doesn't have a mill, and he's got more slabs than the law allows, and it allows him to concentrate.
It makes more sense for guys like that to accumulate the logs.
Exactly.
And pay a guy like me to come in and bust those logs out into slabs over the course of a day or two, and then stack them up and get them done. I got guys that I met on Instagram that I've become really good friends with, like Brandon at Walker's Woodworks. He's about 3 hours away. And Chad at Earl's Woodworks, he's about 30 minutes away. And that's just a couple of guys that I can think of off the top of my head that, you know, Chad comes here for slabs when he has a slab build that somebody wants a slab table. So instead of him having a mill or a big machine to do the surfacing, we provide the slab, we surface it, get it ready for him, and then he does the build and he does all the finish work. Brandon hauls logs down here from 3 hours away. We use the sawmill, we get them cut up, and he takes them back with him the same day, stacks them up and lets them dry, and then he'll be able to use
it's the most effective thing there is. Logs are the easiest thing to get. Get those, stack those, get those milled, dry them up, keep them moving, put the money somewhere else. And if you find that there's a bigger demand for what you want to do, then go get a mill.
Right, and like that guy's asking, you know, Drew Crew's asking questions about what tools to get, and I try to tell everybody that I'm helping, like try to teach things too. It's like painting a car. Okay, you can go to Earl Scheib and get your car painted for $99, you know, or $199, and from 30 feet away you can have a car that looks good. And from 2 feet away, you can have a car that looks like crap. Or you could take it someplace and you could spend $5,000 and get the car painted, and it'll be sanded flawlessly. It'll be painted with good, painted with good materials, and it'll look beautiful from 30 feet away, and it'll look beautiful from 3 feet away. So my advice to guys like Drew Crew is focus on your finishing stuff, because when you're building something, you don't need the biggest, the fanciest, the most expensive. I've done a lot of stuff with just an angle grinder, and guys are surprised that I can do as much as I can with the angle grinder. But do your rough work and focus on your finishing work. So the more professional your finish work is, the more professional your piece is going to look, and it shows in the end. And that's why my niece Alex, like when when I was teaching her woodworking years ago, and she was in that 4-H stuff, and they'd like her out of the fair, and next year they let her back in. The whole reason that the parents were in an uproar over a 13-year-old kid could not have possibly been that is because when I was teaching her how to sand, she's sanding for an hour, and she's like, "I'm all done," and I'm like, "Okay, now here, change the sanding pad and do it all again." Well, what do you mean? Well, you got to keep going. You know, the more time you spend making it pretty now before you put the finish on, the prettier it's going to be when you're all done. So put your emphasis on the finish side because that's what everybody sees. That's anything you do to make your life easier and make your pieces more professional. Finish side is what's going to set you off from other people because anybody can brush roll on some poly.
Yep.
Wipe on some poly. Not everybody can do a flawless, really nice finish on their pieces. And that's, let's face it, that's what you're going to see. That's what you're going to touch.
That's what sells it.
Finish is where it's at.
Yep. Now Dutch Hardwood says we bought first a lot of big logs, later sawmill to cut it. Most of the time, company do it the other way. No logs to sawmill. You're absolutely right, and that's what we're saying. Make sure there's a need for a mill before you get it. And you know, as I spoke with Matt Cremona, I'm going to have him come down, and we're gonna make a custom sawmill that can cut 84 inches because that's what I need for me.
Right.
So let's get this tour, baby.
Okay, I gotta figure out if I can turn this. Can I turn the camera around?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, bigger mill work, Scott. You're right. Paying a mill to work for is worth it. Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you a tour of the place, but I'm gonna show you something that's kind of special that I'm working on for me right now, and I never build it for me. Very rarely do I build anything for me, but here's like my mill area, like where these containers are.
Uh-huh.
I'm building something for me. I'm gonna build a.
What's up over there?
Like here to here, and that's like 100 feet. And
what's that going to be?
What's that?
What is that going to be?
When's it going to be? I'm in the process of cutting all the timbers for it right now.
No, what is it going to be? What's up, Jeff?
It's going to be a pole barn, like an open air pole barn, to get me shelter from the sun and from the rain, and get my equipment shelter.
So you're going to put your mill under there?
Yeah, and so it'd be like a nice working space. So.
So the umbrella's not working?
Well, the umbrella sucks because the wind blows it all over the place. This right here is my first beam that I put together for my pole barn. Right now it's 30 feet long because I'm doing some big ass trusses, but it's 7 by 4. And I scarfed them together.
What's up, Benevolent Designs? What's up, David? I like it.
So there's my scarf.
I like it.
And I put some big walnut wedges in there. So as I pound those wedges in, it forces these two pieces together. So I'll be able to park my truck on that later, and it won't come apart. So I'm pretty proud of that joint. So, but let's get started on a little tour. I warn you now, it's a mess.
Northwest Reclaim, what's up?
And anybody that's been knows that it's a mess.
That means you're working when you're too busy to clean up.
So here's the LX250 that we just got last year. This is the replacement for the LT15 wide that we had. This one this one stock will cut 54 inches wide, but I've taken a grinder to a couple of things, and I got 56 inches out of it.
Not here fabrications.
But we also made another change too. Like, here's the tensioner setup, and this is where the gauge was right here. When you're over here at the command station, you couldn't see the gauge to know if you're losing going through a cut. So we made a little modification and added a hose, moved the gauge over here, so I can see the gauge now and keep track of my tension on the blade.
Did you apply for a patent for that?
No, but I'm gonna copyright it like a river table. So this the oak log. This is a good example of people bringing logs in for me. This is an oak log that came from 30 minutes away from Gobi Walnut up in Oregon.
What?
And yeah, my customers drove all the way up there to visit family, got this log, and hauled it all the way back down here for me to cut it because they knew I had the big saw.
Like a boss.
I'm actually kind of surprised they made it across the border with it. Because most of the time at the California border, they stop you when you got logs.
Yeah, especially if there's bark on them.
And over there is some goodness.
Stacks on stacks on stacks on stacks.
This stuff here is all walnut. I don't know if you can see it.
A little bit, not well. All right, better.
Hang on. That log right there is 14 foot tall. So that stack of walnuts almost 14 foot.
Nice.
This log right here is redwood, and it's like 45 at the top and 60 at the bottom. That's a Deodora cedar, and it's about the same size. But that's
yeah, I had one of those big ones, those Deodora cedars. Those things got my yard smelling delicious.
Well, yeah, my yard always smells like it because we cut a lot of it. So it's kind of hard for me to see the screen. I gotta take my glasses off. So this is my LT40 Super. This is what I'm cutting the beams on for my pole barn, and what I cut a lot of. I cut like slabs and lumber on this mill.
Right. It's nice having dedicated mills. How much acreage do you got out there? How much acreage are you on? Wow.
Out here.
And what's your goal, to fill it all up?
No, if that, I'm gonna piss off my sister. So, and I picked this up from a guy that wasn't doing all too well, like health-wise. This LT40 Super that's electric, but all the bells and whistles are there. It has the set works, it has all the drive.
Still a great 12 acres.
And it's gonna get, and this one will get cut up and turned into something custom. I'm gonna do a 9 foot wide mill, I think.
Okay.
So this is just all storage. These are customer.
Still as great as him, is not you.
What's that?
He said his audio's cutting out. I was like, it's your audio, not his. But you good. Go ahead.
So these customer logs, usually when customers bring in logs, we kind of just stage them up out here. So like these are all for the same customer. We'll end up getting them over there on the LX 250 and get them cut up. These are all oak. There's some black walnut. This is kind of stuff that's pretty typical for the black walnut that we get here in California.
Nice.
All those nice pins and little burly sections.
Gotta love that burl. Do you get more Claro or just regular walnut?
We get Claro and we get Bastone. And Bastone is actually a tree that they, around here they call it paradox. It's a mix of Claro and it's like a hybrid. It's a hybrid of Claro and English walnut together.
Nice.
So this is my big tent that I put up a couple years ago. So I can be in the shade. I usually use this one just for my Lucas mill. So this is the Lucas. I got it set up for planing right now. I got to flatten this slab this weekend.
Benevolence, I know it's not grafted. They merged the seeds long ago.
Say what?
He was asking, was the Basson walnut grafted? So no, they married him a long time ago.
No, Bastogne walnut isn't grafted. Bastogne walnut is a hybrid tree that is like over generation. They produced a hybrid tree from, you know, I guess mating an English walnut tree and a black walnut, and so that's where the Bastogne comes from. But this is the Lucas with the planing head. There's the planing head.
And how big is that mill?
This one will cut 60 inches wide. It'll plane 65 inches wide and 21 feet long. And then at my house up in the mountains, we also have a dedicated slabber that will cut 76 inches wide.
So why the dedicated slabber at your house?
Why what?
Why do you have the dedicated slabber at your house and not in the yard?
Well, it's at my cabin, so it's up in the mountains. It's like 2.5 hours away.
Okay.
So we cut wood up.
Okay, Steel and Grain, how do you like the Lucas? Steel and Grain wants to know, how do you like the Lucas mill for flattening slabs?
I love it because it's very quick, it's very effective, and it's all paid for.
Do you have a lot of problems with fresh sawn slabs that dry too fast?
I do, and what I ended up doing is I use stickers instead of 1x1 stickers. I use stickers that are only about a 1/2 inch thick in the summertime. That way it gets less airflow.
Let me tell you, speaking of that, there's a few years ago, I went to a kiln drying class that was a week long in Syracuse, and I'm going to get Bill on here to go over the whole thing. There's a whole crazy science about that.
So here's the log that got dropped off yesterday, and I'm 5'9".
That's massive. You're breaking up, but I can see that thing is big. And how big is that log?
I didn't measure this end right here, but it's pretty good size.
Yeah. How big is it?
That log is on that end over there is 54, and I didn't measure it on this side, but it's about 50 inches.
Wow.
And that's a Deodorus cedar, and it's like 13 or 14 feet long. This one's a sycamore, almost the same size, but it's even longer.
Kingfish said that log is so big it's blocking the signal. You're probably right. It's causing interference. So, how far is your shop from here?
The shop's over there, but we're not gonna be able to get in there today.
Okay, no problem.
Off. So that's pretty much what we got going on here at the mill. I mean, we got logs stacked up all over the place, big ones and small ones.
You're doing a lot of milling, man.
Yeah, we do. Pretty much every week.
Oh, Jeff, Whitney asked, what did you move your logs around with? You have a bobcat, right?
Yeah, we use a skid steer. It'll lift up like 32 or 3,300 pounds. So the big logs, like this one right here, we just roll them.
Yep. Right.
But
Just
also
push it.
picked up I picked up a reach forklift.
Yeah, I saw that.
Back in like November, I think. And it'll pick up like 6,000 pounds. So that made things a little bit better.
Okay. Yeah. Very nice yard, man.
We'll go over here. I'll show you some stacks.
Yeah. You got a lot of wood, kid.
Oh yeah. There's no end to it.
What's up, John Jordan?
So like this stack right here is the one that I posted a picture of me laying down on the top.
You crazy.
Yeah, I got yelled at.
I climb on mine, but I'm scared to death. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, my wife yelled at me for laying down and taking pictures on that one, but I'm scared of her sometimes.
Right. It's less dangerous at the top of that stack, right?
So, as you can see, I try to take a picture of every slab when I cut it, so that I can show somebody what the slab looks like. And I put labels. I put labels on every. I tag every slab.
How much time does that take?
A lot. Way too long. But the reason I do
don't
here's
do
why.
that, but I should. Yeah, you're breaking up bad. Can't hear you. What's up, Jose? Got it. Yeah, much better.
Okay. I got over here by the stack, and for some reason it cut out. But so I put tags on them because that way I can, if you pick that slab right there, I can look in my phone or in my iPad and I can find that slab number and I can show you a picture of what that slab looked like when I cut it. So
Now, do you have a particular software, or you just do it in your phone and search?
I do it the hard way on my phone. So the reason I do it though is because I have what it is. This is redwood, and then these are widths. So one end, like the small end, is 9. Put the length, which is 104, the thickness, and then I calculate out the board feet. So that when somebody says, how much is this slab? I can look at my price list and say, oh, redwood is $6 a board foot times 41. There you go. That's the price. And that's the slab number. So this is on a list in my phone, and it corresponds to the name that I put on, so that
Nathan
I can go
Ferguson,
right to the picture.
$3 Johnson. But have you
Looking at?
have you looked into software to do that?
Yes, and I actually talked to a guy that's, I think he's in Colorado, and it's his Instagram handle is Lumber Tracker, I think, and he's developed a software for doing just this. And also
let me write
Jennifer.
that down. Go ahead.
I'm pretty sure it's. I have his information in my DMs.
Okay.
But it's and like the software that he has is set up for doing just this kind of thing. It also has trackability for where the log came from and when you got it, when the slabs were cut, when they're expected to be dry. And Jennifer at the Urban Lumber Network is working on the same. It's not probably identical, but it's the same concept of software for the Urban Lumber Network. So when you talk to her, you need to ask her about that.
Okay.
So we got all kinds of different woods, like a lot of redwood. I do a lot of redwood cedar, a lot of deodora cedar, a lot of sycamore. Deodora cedar, like big ones. And
You're breaking up.
country living. That's
Yeah,
one of the
you're
bad
breaking
things
up.
about.
Yeah, I
A
can't
lot
hear
of
you.
charcuterie boards.
Okay. And that's from your smaller
You
stuff
guys
that
all
come
know
in?
we cut a lot of too. Yeah, like we cut cookies out of the big logs that are short, and then this is all like small one by stuff guys use for like charcuterie boards and stuff like that. I sell a lot of charcuterie board stock throughout the year.
Okay.
And then that's a resaw, like a dedicated resaw for taking like a piece of 2x and turning it into 1x. We got guys that bring in, like a truckload and we'll run it through, take their 2x to 1x, or take a 2x into 3 pieces of like 5/8. Kind of depends. A lot of guys that are doing like reclaimed wood walls, we run a lot of wood through that for that.
Right. Okay, cool.
And then we got dry storage here, smalls, like custom pieces. The like woodworkers here and just browsing. Got a lot of walnut. A lot of burly pieces of walnut. A lot of burl cuts. So this container here is pretty much full. A lot of big cookies here that are dry.
Yeah, I can't.
Like sycamore.
I can't.
But these are surface, so that's why we brought them.
Got it. Yeah, I can't. It's the vision is clouded and the sound is worse.
Are you there?
I'm here. I'm with you.
Yeah, that's in the country, buddy. Is no Wi-Fi.
Yep, I know about it. So yeah, is that it? Are we wrapping it up?
That's about all I got for the tour right now. I got my shop is jam packed full of stuff, so it's not gonna really do any good to take you over there right now. We'll have to do that another day.
Yep. Nope. Listen, it's all good, man. Thank you again. We got another conversation at 6 p.m. with Jay Rustin. I appreciate your time, brother, and keep hustling.
Right on. Thanks, buddy.
Have a good one.
All right, man. See you
All right,
next
brother.
time.
Yep.